Hey everyone, I'm Megan Barnhard.
And I'm Ella Barnard.
And sometimes people ask if we're related, but we're not. We're just one letter different. And we're here in All Writers Welcome, the ultimate writing group. I wish we were related.
I
Well,
know. We're
no,
like
I don't
soul
know. Mixed
sisters,
feelings.
spirit sisters.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I still think we should start a detective agency, Barnard and Barnhard.
Yeah.
I feel like we could solve all of the.
Oh my
Solve all of
gosh.
that
Oh my
way.
gosh.
If
We'd
anybody
have
would like to create that detective agency in their story, go ahead.
Yeah. That would be the awesomest.
Yeah. So today we want to talk about killing your darlings. And a lot of people use this phrase. I think I got it directly from Stephen King in his novel On Writing. Or, excuse me, not his novel,
Book.
his memoir.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's something that a lot of people talk about because it has to be done. Oh, you've got it right there. I love it. I highly recommend that one, by the way. And I'm not a Stephen King fan. His books are too scary for me, too creepy. I don't read his fiction. I mean, I have read some and I've seen some of the movies. But that memoir is phenomenal.
I've read it twice.
Really, really well done. Yeah.
And I keep it
Highly
here just in
recommend it.
case I need to read it again.
Yeah. A lot of inspiration. So when you are writing and when you're working toward publishing your book, of course, you're very attached. And advice that we have given and other people have given is don't write it if you don't love it, right? You're writing something because you love it. You don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on a book that you don't care deeply about. So then you get to this point where you have made this thing you care deeply about, and you have to let go of some of it. So that's the conversation today. And we'd love to have comments from anybody who's had to make the hard cuts or who is in the process of making the hard cuts. If this is something that you want to get in on, please let us know where you get stuck or what's challenging about it. But I guess let's start with the writing part of things, because that comes first in the process. My number one way of letting go of the guilt of having to kill my darlings is storage. And this is one of the 7 secrets to smarter revising. And you can actually get that video over on our website, right? If you can find it on the Facebook page here, but if you missed that one, it's over at allwriterswelcome.com, and it's more tips about revising, but talking about storage more in depth. But what I want to say about it here is taking things out of your story doesn't mean you have to. I know the title here is kill, but it doesn't mean you have to let go of them completely. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, right? There's a time when you know something doesn't fit in your story, and the best thing you can do is store it somewhere else and then pilfer your storage. All the best writers, all the best artists steal from themselves. So if something is really phenomenal, save it. Save it. You never know what it'd be.
Kidnap it. Kidnap it and put it in a closet. It's better than killing. No.
Maybe. Yeah.
No. I'm just saying, put it aside for later.
Yeah.
I have a whole closet of crafty stuff that I might need sometime. And there you go.
Folders and folders of stored writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that decision point is really important because if you're thinking about this book as something you love and that you want to put out into the world so other people will love it, you love it the way a mother loves, right? You saw how it all came together and you love it with all of its imperfections. But your audience, it's like putting your book out onto the dating scene. And you really want it to put its best foot forward. But also, I would say more seriously, think about your intention with what you're writing. And the reason for killing your darlings is so that you scale back to what is the core of what you want to write. And I don't know, I feel like I've had this experience a number of times. Ella, have you had this experience where you're reading a book and all of a sudden there's a part and you go, this just doesn't fit?
Yes.
And you can almost see the author writing it, knowing it doesn't fit, but leaving it in anyway because it was
Yes.
clever or humorous or
Yes. Or
just
I
wrong.
oftentimes see it where they've done some research on something related to it. They've done some research on something kind of related to the topic, and they're like, this is fascinating. I have to work it in somehow, and it's not, it doesn't move the story forward. It's like,
or tell you more about the characters.
for an example, like if there's something about horses or something, this is an example. But then they're like, I didn't even know this about horses. And so they put it into the story, and you're like, I can tell that they did a lot of research on this and they loved this piece of information, but it doesn't actually have anything to do with the story.
Right. Or I think similarly, if somebody has put a lot of work in, with research in particular, then there's a feeling of I have to put it in because I worked so hard to create this, right? Oh my goodness, I spent 15 hours researching at the library, and then I talked to that horse lady, and then I, drove all the way out to that farm. Which
we appreciate, we appreciate that kind of work and thoroughness, and we're not saying don't do that. And I'm sure
makes it really hard to let go of. It makes it so hard to let go when you've worked, and it might not even be external. It might just be writing that you've done some passage and it was very challenging. It just took so much of your soul. I mean, as artists and writers, we talk about people putting their blood, sweat, and tears on the page. And so if there is a particular section you had to fight to get down, that would be so hard to let go of. That's why it's, killing your darlings. It's not killing the
the dandelion.
And there are two things going on here. I mean, there is some space for cutting and you go, oh, but I like it. There are some but I like it. And then there are some where it goes right to your core. And those are the hardest to cut. And that's the time to just really ask, how is it serving your larger purpose? And a book it has a life of itself. And so if you frame it that way, it may make it a little bit easier. Storing definitely will make it easier. But if you say, for the good of this book, what am I willing to let go of? I think that's a powerful and positive way to frame it.
That's really awesome. I love how you reframed that from it being about yourself. About it's so much easier to do something for someone else that would be difficult than it is to do it for yourself sometimes. It's so much easier for me to see where other people can improve themselves than it is for me to improve myself. But it's easy, it's easier for me to defend other people than it is for me to defend myself. And I love that you have, it's easier for me to care for other people than it is for me to care about myself. Right.
I think that might be
well, it took me a little bit to get there, but
I gotcha.
But so if you reframe it to how can I care for this book instead of how do I care for myself? How can I make this book the best possible? I love that you did that. You did it better than I do, but I love that. Thank you.
I don't know. From talking to you, so you definitely have a part in it. And then also that will diminish ego some, because it's not how can I appear the most clever, how can I appear the most brilliant, how can I prove to my 7th grade English teacher that I really can write, all of the weight that is on our shoulders as artists. We can let that take a back seat and just say, the real darling is this precious book. That's the real darling, and everything else that's come into it is wonderful helpers. And you can put things in storage and say thank you to them. Thank you. Awesome scene about horses. I put you in storage. I'm grateful to you. I want to come back to you. And cutting with that attitude could actually be really fun. Now, on a more practical note, for people who are going through and saying, well, I know I've got to do some cuts. I know I've got to get rid of stuff, but how do I know what to get rid of? And I don't want to lose something that really is like the essence. First thing I recommend is, at the point you feel comfortable, share with other people, right? You know why everything is there. Share with somebody else. And a way to share that, for me, gets good results is to be really clear about what I'm looking for. And also to be very choosy about whom I share with. But even the people I trust, I make sure to let them know what would be helpful at this stage. So saying things like, hey, I'm just looking to see what you think of the pacing. I know I've got more cuts and more edits to do, but can you just give me some feedback on how is this flowing? Does it feel like it's rushing? Does it feel like it's going too slow? Right? Or you can come up with a couple of different places or a couple of different pieces. I have sent people emails with bullet points. Hey, it'd be super helpful for me if you could give me feedback on the pacing. Does it make sense why she had to, go back and talk to him in chapter 3? And what did you think of that scene in chapter 5 where they go to the park? Was it interesting or boring? You can be specific.
Yes.
And people for that feedback.
I recommend that you always be specific, because if you just leave it open and you're looking for a certain kind of feedback, but if you just leave it open, you can get whatever feedback and it can hurt. Or I wasn't ready for that. Feedback.
And sometimes it's really not useful. And I've certainly asked people to read things and asked for, specific things, and then gotten back, and this person had taken hours and hours to go through with a fine-tooth comb and say, this is off here. And I went, I know there are details that still need to be covered. I know I probably have missing commas and indelicate word choice. I'm not ready for that yet. That's too fine. And that's like, that's a waste of your time. And then I feel, defensive about it. So it's so important. Choose people you trust and be really specific. And this is where being in a group is really helpful, being in a place for feedback. But there's something kind of cool that will happen too when you put together that list for your readers. And it's that things will come on your radar and you might get the answers. So as you ask, what do you think of the pacing? It may be because there's a little voice in you saying, things are kind of going slowly. It's taking a really long time to get to, the moving the plot along. The questions you might be asking are probably giving you insight. So as you're waiting for feedback for other people, you can also go back and reread and say, well, how is that pacing? Or how is that scene in chapter 5 where they go to the park? To let those help you reflect. And then to also get really clear on what your intention is. So your book is your darling. What this last round of students I'm taking through, and you're taking through too, the Plan, Write, Publish class we did, where middle schoolers are writing stories, and then Ella is showing them how to publish. Oh my gosh, so fun. I had them start with a goal at the top. And that goal included things like what they really wanted to get across in their story, but also what they don't like. And it was cool. And then, at the end of writing, we got to come back to it. And in the midst of revising, we got to come back to it and say, are you getting a story that's fun and humorous with this kind of main character that avoids having a cliffhanger? Oh, yeah. So, did you do that when you wrote your book? Did you have a guiding principle or a touchstone, something you return to?
Yeah. Well, I had an outline.
Sure.
I had an outline.
Like an emotional touchstone or a tone. Like, I'll know I'm doing it right if it makes me feel this way or if it sounds this way. Or what I knew I was doing it right is when it was really hard. Like, this is really hard to write about. This is difficult, but because it was touching on parts of myself that I avoid because they're difficult. But that makes sense, because the premise of your book was you can grow.
Yes.
Right, and you can grow into the person you want to grow into. So it makes perfect sense that would be hard to write. Because you're doing the growth in those moments.
I really love that you were talking about what is your intention? Because I think that's
Yeah.
the key question when you're looking to kill your darlings, like,
Yeah.
or put them in another document. The key question is
Well,
what?
that's what it is. You're hiding them. You're like
Yeah.
swooping them up and bringing them to safety at Miss Peregrine's house for
Yes.
what is it?
Yeah.
Unusual something.
I don't know. I have not read those. I think I read one of them, and I was like,
Oh.
not for me.
It's yeah, they're not my favorite. But it's the premise is there's World War II is going on and
Miss
kids are being
Peregrine.
taken out of London and brought to safe houses.
Peregrine. And they're living
Safe
in a
house.
time loop. Living in a time loop. Okay.
Brought
Yeah.
to the safe house. We've landed on it. You're not killing them. You're not kidnapping them. You're bringing them to a safe house for their own good.
Immortal and unaging.
But you talked about
knowing your intention.
Yeah.
Knowing your intention, because you can come back, and you were saying the same thing, like, did you have a touchstone? And it's super smart to have that before you've started writing, because once you're in the middle of it, you're like, well, I love this now, and it's too late to be like, well, what's my intention? Because you're like, you're in the middle of it. You have to. I really think that's a great idea to before you start. And if it's too late for that, if you've already started and you're halfway through, I recommend like going on a walk or like journaling or something and being like, okay, what is my intention for this book? Like, get away from the book.
Yeah.
Get away from the story.
One of our members who joined recently said that he set out with the intention of writing a book that would make a grown man cry.
Yes.
And he fulfilled that intention.
That's
and
so
I love
awesome.
it. And it really sheds light on this idea that your intention is personal. And this should also make it really compelling to take out your darlings and put them in the safe house, because it's about you putting an important message or an important book out into the world, right? It's you saying, it's so important to me and so powerful to me to have a book in which this happens, or to have a book that affects people in this way. And you want to be careful with that, because you don't want to attach everything to how other people react, because we have no control over how other people react.
Right.
But I think in that case of a particular emotion, and you can know when that's achieved, then that's so. If your intention is, I'm going to write a book that absolutely everybody will love, then that's dangerous. Right?
It's not going to happen.
I'm going to write a book that's so powerful that even a grown man will be brought to tears. That's definitely something you can do. It's something that somebody in our group has done. So I think that's really lovely. And a big part of intention is your genre, right? Like,
yes,
there's a big piece there, and I think it's something that authors may not think about in the way you think about, because there's the genre from the reader's point of view that's like, oh, I like fantasy or I like mystery, but they get really specific, right?
Yeah. Well, there's also intention when you're marketing. Okay, so this is now we're if you're are you shifting from writing to marketing?
I think genre is actually the perfect link, right? Because it's you need to think about it in both places. So absolutely. Let's talk about killing your darlings in the publishing process as well, and the marketing process. Yeah,
I think again, your intention and the intention will be different. Like the intention's not going to be like, I want to make a grown man cry with my book cover. That's that's not
saved for the internal parts. That's the protected part.
So the intention would asking yourself what is my intention for this book in terms of marketing are you making it for your family and friends? And so if you have a hand-drawn book cover, they're going to be even more, sentimental about it, because it's like, oh, that's one intention, and it's a fine intention. Nothing wrong with that. But if your intention is to get your story into the hands of as many people as possible, and you have a hand-drawn cover, it might not, your intention and your actions might be in conflict. And so that's when it's really powerful to say, okay, what is my intention with this book? Is it to be original? And that's one intention. Or is it to sell a lot of copies? And I think genre-wise, people can become very attached to their genre. And see, genre is like this pretty big word. Like it's like you're like mystery. Well, that's a pretty big genre, right?
Right. Because there's cozy mysteries and there's the blood and guts shoot 'em ups and
and
solving mysteries with pets and
well and there's people that have like, okay, you know, I've written a mystery, but it's also romance, but it's also, and that's not to say that you can't have romance and mystery in one book, right? But but I think when you're choosing, specifically for Amazon, when you're choosing a category, it doesn't have to fit exactly with what you think your genre is. It should definitely, your book should fit into the genre. But there's so many categories, and
there's not always a perfect fit, right?
No. And I love that, because it means that there's so much creativity that even Amazon cannot categorize it all. Like it just, I love that. But I think, so when you're choosing your categories, look, what is your intention? And go ahead and try and choose categories that, categories/genres, right? Because it's kind of, we're intermixing those words a little bit. That will sell well, instead of that match perfectly with what you think your book is, like what your story is.
And can I back you up for a second and make a distinction? Because I know that you don't mean write a story that you don't care about just because it's a hot genre and you think, like, go write I guess it's not hot anymore, but if you're a few years back, like, go write a teenage vampire romance, right? Just, I know that's not what you mean. It's
Okay. So, okay.
Oh, wow.
You're back.
I'm not sure what the last thing was. I know I was frozen itching my eye for a while there.
Okay. It said,
but I know you're not saying write a book you don't care about just so it's in the hot genre at the time, right? Mm-hmm. This is about how to get the book that you have an intention for lined up with the people who are most likely to want to click on it, right? And there's an art to that.
Yes.
And it may not, but the point is, it may not look like what you thought it would look like. So it may turn out that this amazing book you've written, and you go, well, my intention is to write this mystery that also has these elements of romance. And you stay true to that in writing, and you stay true to that in revising, and, now it's ready to go. If there's a category that comes up that doesn't look exactly like that, but that you've done your research on and it looks like your book will be well exposed in, it's okay to let go of that original thought of it has to be called these things. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting, because it sounds like it's the opposite, but you're still holding on to your intention. What you're letting go of is the language. It's just the words. That's the only thing you're letting go of. You're not changing the whole story, and now I'm going to put in scenes so it's a different thing, it's a different genre altogether. Mm-hmm. But I think that you have really helped people a lot with this. Is like, be prepared. It might not look like what you thought it would look like.
Yeah. I am fortunate. I guess I realized that I have this really easy way of like stepping into my marketing mind, which
okay.
Which is the benefit for this group, for sure. Benefit for you guys. Yeah. But yeah, it's because and maybe it's because I'm not writing every day, even though
Mm-hmm.
I do consider myself a writer. I'm not writing novels every day. Journals, notebooks of notes and things, sure. But
Yeah.
so it's easy for me to get into my marketing mind, and I think that's one of the tips that I recommend for people. Get into, if you can get into your marketing mind, and maybe it's like you're wearing a hat. You're like, this is my writing and creative hat, and then take it off and put, this is my marketing hat, and you can put that on when you have your book covers. And I think that's a, I could talk about this a long time, and I have made a few videos about it already, but
what's the magic behind that? Like, when you say it's easy for you to switch, do you just mean it happens, or is there something that you do?
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, I'm like, okay, I'm not in my creative mind now. Now I'm in my analytical mind. Yeah. I don't even know if I even just say it to myself. It just happens. Oh. I spend a good amount of time in my marketing mind.
Yes. So you've built up the habit of being there.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Anyways. So yes, I'd go into my marketing mind, and I think it's useful though to have a distinction.
Yeah.
So that so for other people who it's not like an immediate thing like it is necessarily for me, yeah, it's nice to have a distinction and say, okay, I'm setting aside creative, like, writing hat and putting on, I'm becoming doing my marketing mindset right now. And that is, what will people buy? You're becoming your own agent. Yeah. Yes.
And your agent would just be like, she's got a pencil skirt and a really sharp blazer and a perfect haircut. And she's like, oh no, we're not letting you get anything less than the best exposure. We're going to make sure that, she's like on it.
Yeah.
and she's doing it because she believes in your book and she believes in you. But she's,
oh my gosh, brilliant.
She's like, oh no, we're not letting an okay cover slide through. This cover's going to be phenomenal. Oh, this is great. Yeah. I'm going to talk to my agent more.
I love that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. This is how I change. For me, like, play and theater and characters are effective. So inventing a different person who will do this. Yeah. But because it's scary then to think about marketing. And I wonder if, to some extent, I feel pretty certain that this happened for me with putting out Recipe for Writing. But I wonder if, to some extent, we make the wrong choices about marketing as authors out of self-protection. Like, maybe I don't really want a lot of people to read my book.
Yeah. Unconsciously.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people unconsciously are like, I want it to be original. And I come against that pretty often. And and I love originality. I am 100, I'm 100% for originality. But if you're writing genre fiction, there's one, limited originality, I think. But two, when I look to read books, I'm not necessarily looking for originality. I'm looking for a great story. Like, I read a lot of fantasy. I read a lot of...
You know what's coming to mind as you're saying that? Another helpful, like, mental place for people to go into would be to think about what they did when they wrote. When we write books, most people are not like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write all the words backwards and I won't use any periods. And but there is not a feeling that we have to be completely original when we write. When we write, we follow story structure. We're like, I'm going to have characters. There's going to be a conflict. There's going to be a plot. If we're writing nonfiction, we outline and we say, I'm going to talk about these topics in an order that makes sense. I'm going to go more into depth. So if when you're in your marketing brain, you can remember that when you wrote, you did not invent the structure. You filled in the structure with wonderful creativity and originality. But that might be helpful too.
That's a good idea.
Instead of inventing your own cover, look at you just trained me with this so much. And it was so gratifying to see our students in the Plan, Write, Publish class really get it. Yeah. And to make covers and, follow those guidelines and get fantastic results. But that might be helpful for people to go, you're not making anything from scratch when you're writing a book.
Yeah.
And the knowledge is out there. You've got it.
Yep.
I mean,
yep. Yeah. So
you've got it ready to.
Yep. So that means you may have to, if you have a book out there with a cover that you handmade on it, getting back to the How to Kill Your Darlings, you may have to, if you now watch this video and you put your marketing hat on, or you put on your agent persona, and you look at it and you're like, okay, is this cover going to get me the most readers? And the key to doing that is making sure that it matches the other cover, or it mimics.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in there. There's also, I mean, things that you point out about how people are looking for books. If you're looking for your book on a phone, we have
other things. There's at allwriterswelcome.com/checklist. There's a whole checklist that you can get and about book covers. But for now, if you put on your agent persona and you're like, you go look at your cover, go look at your categories and say, are these the things that are going to get the most people buying my book, if that's your intention?
Yeah.
And then if not, and I don't think you have the same, you can put your book cover, you can take a screenshot, you can save a JPEG and put it into the same safe house.
Yes.
This was my first edition book cover.
Mm-hmm. So here's what's coming to me from what you just said. Mm-hmm. None of this really is about killing your darlings. All of this is about protecting your one darling, which is your book.
Oh.
And you're going to take out the writing that isn't making your book exactly what you want it to be and exactly as wonderful as it could be. And you're going to take out the marketing elements that aren't getting it in front of that. So I'm seeing that agent persona now as like the mama bear. It's like, make way, my baby's coming through. And
oh, I love that so much.
Everybody needs to see this book. So that they, if it's the kind of book that they want to read, they can get it. But this needs to be out in the world. And that feels so good to me. And you know me, I think we share this. Believe things that help you.
Yes.
Right? So if it helps you to feel maybe some people resonate with, killing your darlings because they like that efficiency of like, oh yeah, I'm going through and I'm taking out the weeds. Awesome. Stick with it. But if that's always been hard for you, maybe a way to think about it is preserving your darling, which is the book. And so you're making sure that nothing harms it. Nothing detracts from it. Oh, okay.
There's Charlie. He's my darling.
He's like, you're not locking me away in storage, are you?
Yeah, you're gonna put me away in the safe house. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I love how every time we chat, we get like towards the end, some like magical little piece of like, that's it. That's what we were looking for. Yeah. The agent mama bear is, yeah.
But it's all about what's the kind of framing, and this is a mindset coach, what's the kind of framing that will help you do the things you want to do. And I hope that, other people in the group have spaces and places where they just talk to somebody, and maybe it's about writing or maybe it's about other things in life. But having that conversation so that you're constantly figuring out what works for you. It's the best thing in the world.
Yes. Right, Charlie? Right, Charlie? Yeah.
Whatever. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll see you guys all in the group.
Yes.
And
if anybody has any questions, go ahead and leave a comment or reach out to us. We're on allwriterswelcome.com and also in the All Writers Welcome, the Ultimate Writing Group Facebook group. Ultimate Writing. I feel like that's like WWE or something, like the Ultimate Writing Group.
All right. Have a fantastic day, everybody. See ya. Bye.